All DCI models include an AUX port on the rear panel of the amplifier which incorporates two functions, sleep and amplifier status. The sleep function and setup are identical across all models of DCI, while the amplifier status is configured differently depending on whether the DCI is an analog model or one of the networked DSP models. The AUX port can be accessed on the rear of the unit. For most models, the AUX port is a standalone 3-pin block connector. The connector is slightly different on the 2x2400 network and 4x2400 network, where it is combined with the GPIO port on a single 8-pin block connector. Despite the slight difference in physical layout, all AMP models perform identically. First, we'll cover the sleep function of the AUX port. The steps to use the sleep function are identical for all models of DCI. The sleep function will completely power down the amplifier when contact is made between the sleep and ground pins of the AUX port. Commonly, these two pins are connected to either a switch or a relay. The concept is simple. When the switch or relay is closed, the amplifier will turn off. When the switch is opened, the amplifier will power back on. The amplifier will need to initially be powered on for this function to work. If the power button is pressed while in sleep mode, the blue power indicator will flash and the amp will remain in sleep mode. The analog models will begin passing audio around 4 seconds after the contact closure is removed, and the DSP models will begin passing audio around 20 seconds after the contact closure is removed. It's possible to connect more than one amplifier to a single contact closure. In these instances, make sure to connect all the sleep pins together and all of the ground pins together on separate sides of the switch or relay. Shown here is a switch connected to both an analog and network model DCI amp in the manner just described. When the switch is closed, notice the amplifiers turn off. When the switch is open, both amplifiers begin their power-up sequence, with the analog version fully booting up first. The second AUX port function comes from the amp status pin. This pin provides either a constant 5V DC output or a 5V DC 2Hz heartbeat between the amplifier status pins and ground pin. When used, the amp status port is typically tied to a custom control or monitoring interface. The amp status output pin will be active unless one of the following conditions occurs. The amplifier is turned off, the amplifier is in sleep mode, or there is a fault on one or more of the amplifier channels or elsewhere in the device. As mentioned before, the amp status performs identically between all models of DCI, but the configuration is different with the analog version than with any DSP version. To configure the amp status with the analog version of DCI, locate the global settings dip switches to the right of the fan on the rear panel. Dip switch B determines whether the amp status pin will send a 5V, 2Hz heartbeat, or a constant logic high output. When the switch is in the up-on position, it is set to output the 2Hz heartbeat. When the switch is in the down-off position, it is set to output the constant 5V logic high. To configure the amp status on any of the DSP versions of DCI, you must use the control software Audio Architect. Double-click on the virtual representation of the amp to open the amp's default device panel. Next, double-click on the amp info button located at the top of the panel. In this amplifier information window, the amp status port can be configured for a 2Hz heartbeat or constant 5V DC output by selecting the radio button next to the type of output you desire. The default mode of operation is a constant 5V DC. The amp status port on all models of DCI can supply up to 0.9 milliamps of current. Thank you for watching this video. For questions, comments, or suggestions regarding this or any other video, please send them to the email address shown below. For technical assistance, please call the technical support department or email them at the options shown below.